Whether you thought the HBO series The Last of Us was a good adaptation of the video game's source material or not, there is no denying that this is a beautifully shot series, and there was a ton of forethought getting the right look and feel for this type of series, from lighting techniques like skip lighting to cameras, lenses, and a large number of handheld shots that all help to make this series feel, as cinematographer Evan Bolter put it, feel dirty and mixed and messy and feral. So let's take a look at the camera, lenses, and techniques used to make this show have such a distinctive, imperfect look to it. The entire series was shot with an Arri Alexa Mini with Cooke Optics S4 lenses. The Alexa Mini, which was released in 2015, has been a workhorse camera for the industry since its release, being used in countless movies and TV series in its 8 years of existence. This camera also only shoots 4K UHD images in ProRes only, and it appears that they shot this series in the Arri RAW format, which only captures at 3424 by 2202, not technically 4K, but I note this as another point that Arri has always gotten right, which is focusing on getting the best quality out of every pixel rather than focusing on resolution, per usual. But why did they use this camera? Well, DP Evan Bolters answered this question by saying that it's lightweight, small, good for handheld, and in my opinion, the Alexa has the best dynamic range to emulate a 35mm film look. Unlike the shallow focus you get from a large format or 65mm, which is the fashion right now, the Alexa captures a large amount of detail in the background, so you're not just getting out of focus blobs. The decision makes honestly a lot of sense considering the series was shot handheld, with episode 1 shot with almost 100% handheld shots. We'll get into why they decided to shoot handheld primarily for the series here in a second, but to round out the imaging equipment used for the show, they shot with a set of Cooke S4 lenses, which were chosen by DP Ksenia Serrata, who shot episode 1 and 2 of the series, and a flashback in episode 7. She said she was looking for lenses where you can have this connection of the close-up and what you can see around in the environment. Cinematographers have been filming with Cooke lenses for almost 120 years. The first created Cooke lens was in 1893, and by 1939, they supplied over 80% of the world's lenses for film studios. Even after this success, the company was still pushing to innovate with lenses and was the first to develop tools to actually control the surface quality of lenses. And they created the first true surface measuring instrument, all leading to better lenses for the entire industry and to the Cooke S4 lenses being released in 1998 that would eventually be converted for digital uses in a couple of other iterations. The lenses are really best known for their sharp, subtle, and smooth rendering with dimensionality and high contrast. All lenses in the series are color matched to ensure a seamless look. When sharp edges of an image go out of focus, the lens gives a nice, smooth, and rounded, blended look to an image. These lenses are built to attain a very natural look to the footage because these lenses make for a perfect pairing for the series with its very naturalistic look. And if you want to learn more about these lenses, Able Cine actually has a really good look at these lenses, and we've linked to that below if you'd like to learn more. But these lenses also pair very well with the choice to go with very naturalistic lighting, and even choosing to make that lighting imperfect on purpose. So an example of this was done in the 3rd episode by Evan Bolter, with a technique he dubbed skip lighting, which he said he learned from American Beauty DP Conrad Hall. The basic concept of skip lighting is to create an ambient lighting from props on set instead of film lights. In episode 3, there's an example of this where they set up lighting where the sun is coming through the window and it hits the tablecloth, helping to light the scene and not take away from the beauty or realism of the shot with too much lighting, and also to add that just a little bit of imperfection to it, like you would get in any day scenario. And the lighting techniques play directly into the setting of the series. It's a post-apocalyptic America with a power grid that's non-existent, and they wanted to accentuate that feeling. Bolter told motionpictures.org that you've got daylight, you've got moonlight, and you've got fire. 3 natural resources, and then a finite resource with electricity in certain areas that have generators, or the lights are, 20 years old, so they're going to be flickering. And you've got torches and flashlights. I wanted to lean into these imperfections and make the light feel dirty and mixed and messy and feral. Overlighting and creating the perfect lighting for the scenes was not the aesthetic they wanted to create when filming the series. Bolter even joked that they weren't making a Michael Bay movie and didn't need the lighting to be perfect. Honestly, the best example I can think of almost perfect lighting would be the original Lord of the Rings series. The lighting is almost always perfect, you could say in a way, on the characters throughout the trilogy. But this makes sense in a series based in fantasy to have this kind of lighting to it, because it's not meant to be based in reality. Bolter noted, though, that with The Last of Us, which is based in a realistic setting, You really want to dirty it up when it comes to the lighting to keep you grounded in the setting. Another great example of this was in episode 4 when Ellie enters a bathroom of a gas station in the middle of nowhere. They actually cut a hole in the ceiling, added some dust particles coming through it, and got the sunlight in a position that added light to the scene without being too perfect, adding more natural ambient lighting to the scene in a way you would expect it to look in a real life setting again. And another great example of this was the hunt for the right flashlights to use for the series, which also played a big role in the video games as your character explores the world around you. Going back to the director of photography, she said that some scenes are based only on the flashlights, like the museum scene in episode 2, where they're entering and we needed to find the right balance between the darkness and the flashlights we were using. We tested all different types of flashlights to find the ones that create the same experience for the viewer as the characters that they're discovering things. And this choice for a more natural feeling lighting really plays well for the series, in my opinion, and adds to the very raw and unsettled world you find yourself in. Not only did this idea of imperfection play into the lighting of the scenes in the series, but it also played a part in the decision to mostly go handheld for the entirety of the series. This is probably the tricky part of trying to emulate the look and feel of playing a video game, and then transposing that to a live action format. How do you get that same feeling you get while playing the game, but not make it look weird to the point that it takes you out of the immersion? Luckily for them, The Last of Us video game has tons of shots and angles that really do translate well to a live action format. The game itself actually adds in the handheld shot effect to add more cinematic look and feel to the video game. From running, aiming, and tense or scary scenes in the video game, they add varying levels of camera shake or movement to add to the experience. Wanting to create that same experience for the series, Bolter felt that the handheld look really plays well into the goal of the series looking shot imperfectly and organic in the filming of the show. He said that, "I think on the handheld side of things, handheld was discussed a lot. I mean, most of the show is handheld. And there was sort of a visceral, grounded, organic reason for that. But we didn't want to be 100% beholden to that. So there are a few shots in my episodes that aren't handheld. That being said, I'd say 80 to 90% is still handheld. And that just leans into that sort of organic, allows characters to move and push and pull you around. With that in mind, they wanted to stay away from some of the Hollywood tropes of camera movements. Instead of pushing in with the camera on an important line or serious moment of the series, Bolter said that we wanted the camera to sit back a little bit and be a bit more observational and react, and be the audience and occasionally make mistakes. So that style was very important to Craig, and like I said, Craig was the only one who we really were beholden to in terms of the tone. This may come as no surprise for this type of style, as Craig Mazin wrote and created the HBO miniseries Chernobyl, which has a very similar style and feel to The Last of Us. And this is an incredibly interesting series to learn for any aspiring cinematographer, and the idea of imperfection can be a desired outcome of how you film. But you know what wasn't something that imperfection was a good thing for? The weird and crazy history of video game adaptations leading to The Last of Us. And if you want to see some of that madness, check out this video right here. It's absolutely insane, some of the things they came up with.